Students are encouraged to participate in 15 hours of hope, help others, pray, and encourage.
Okay.
So those hours could be anything like hosting leadership at Mass or greeting and sorting at Tuesday drives, making, Christmas, we have our night of service, so it could be making blankets and putting goodie bags together, bringing items for goodie bags, like a whole kind of, serving at the soup kitchen, a whole variety of, service and prayer opportunities.
Yeah.
So our confirmation occurs in 10th grade. So what we've done the first time this year is we're starting registration for the next year is it was difficult keeping, I had a small, like I've been a youth minister for like 7 years. So I didn't have a core team, and then I developed a core team, and they were super. But now, like, the little sisters of this great core team are now my seniors and are graduating. You know what I mean? A couple of the parents say they'd like to stay on, but it's been very difficult the last couple of years to try to bring in young people to, stay with us. You know what I mean? It's almost like they get confirmed and then we don't hear from them until they're applying to college their senior year, or they need a reference for, their work that they did in 9th and 10th grade for National Honor Society.
Right.
So we're starting this confirmed in the spirit. So even you're signing up just as you sign up for faith formation class. There's no fee. There's no, attendance requirement, just so that we have contact information, allergy information, that kind of thing, for those who want to continue. And then we're at the end of next Sunday and Monday, we're going to have a young church liturgical training and information night with Father Matt, and he reached out to some liturgical people, inviting the newly confirmed and our 11th graders to be lectors or Eucharistic ministers and that type of thing. So we're really trying to put some emphasis on how we can keep our 11th and 12th graders. So and we're thinking of, instead of doing a core team, I know a couple, I think you may have mentioned it too, is about like a faith formation advisory board, like having, a board, of parents and catechists and, different age levels. So we bought some books at our last in-service that we thought, Denise Utter was like prayer and then formation. So we thought we'd use one of those books as the formation tool, and then, discuss, what our parish needs in order to reach.
Is that what that stack of books was in?
That's what those stacks of books are for, yeah.
Gotcha.
So we thought, okay, we might as well, we'll start. So if you have any ideas or suggestions on, faith formation boards that you've created, I love your story about that one movie night and there was only one person and you still had that movie night.
Yeah. The Halloween night. The Halloween night.
David, I think it was Dave or maybe it was Joyce when I first started, always said, don't worry about counting the sheep, just, feed them. So to try to think of ways to feed, that group, because folks are signing up because, they want the sacraments, but once they receive that sacrament, how to keep engaging families.
Yeah. So, when it comes to when you're talking about like an advisory board, it's almost kind of like the way I would look at it is, this team that well, let me take a step back because you've explained it a little bit, but my big question is, why do you feel like you need an advisory board or an advisory team? Because this would be something new you're adding onto your plate, and it sounds like you're doing a lot. So, the first question is, how is this going to benefit you?
I think it would be to, as I said, to take the place of the core team, because the core team was a group of parents and young people that when we were coming up with an event, they would do the social media, like create the video. They would say, no, Mrs. Hospodara, that is not fun. You know what I mean? They would give us the thumbs up or the thumbs down, or try to come up with creative things to do for planning, the calendar or, the schedule. Because I mean, we're all 60, you know what I mean? Jen's our is our youngster in our 50s. So, we're all in our 60s, and we all have our different gifts. Oh, excuse me. I don't have this off. So I think it's more, more like, what do they think their peers, what do their parents need? Because we started a program called the Agape Latte, and what I would love to have one just for the parents, like having a retreat or that time for parents to just come together and have coffee and, chat about,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So
it's
really more like to give us ideas, give us thumbs up, thumbs down, and encourage to, on the fields and everything, to talk about what's happening at St. Thomas and come.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that makes sense. So first off, you're younger than Abraham when he started his ministry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
good. And Noah too. So you're way ahead of these giants.
I always said age doesn't matter, because
right.
People tell me that, we're looking for a young. Sorry, you're a young minister.
Yeah, we always look at the disciples and Mary, and they were a bunch of teenagers. But Abraham, Moses, Noah, they were old. So so you're ahead of them. But
experience counts for something.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, so one of the things that I've always found helpful for me with an advisory board is one to and actually, when you look at actual strategic boards for a non-for-profit, which I'm chair of a prison ministry board here in Baltimore, and we always talk about, when we're bringing on new people, do we need a dreamer, a doer, or a donor, right? A dreamer, a doer, or a donor. A dreamer, being someone who has big ideas, thinks big, isn't afraid to charge the hill, even though they don't know how they're going to get up it, right? The doer is the person who's like, all right, if we need to stack chairs, we stack chairs. If we need to take minutes, we'll take minutes, all that kind of stuff. And then the donor, obviously, is someone who's just like, I believe in the vision, I believe in doing, but I'm just going to invest in this financially or some sort of way. All right, so when we translate that into a parish setting, in a non-parish council sort of setting, what we still need the dreamer, we still need the doer, but the donor is more of like a networker, right? Like, maybe it's not giving money, although that should always be welcome, but maybe it's networking with people and finding the resources, like, hey, I have a truck guy, or I know someone who can get us, a discount at the pizzeria, or things like that, right? And so having those people, because what they're going to enable you to do is you go to them and you're like, this is what's on my mind, this is what's on my heart when it comes to ministry. Help me hash this out. Help me think about how we can do this at a 30,000 foot view. All right. So that's like the first thing. And when it comes to recruiting doers, dreamers, or donors, you have to think about who you are in that mix. So when you think about the doer, the dreamer, and the networker, instead of the donor, where do you feel like you fall primarily? Because you could fit into all three, but where do you feel like you fit primarily?
I'm kind of, it's interesting. I'm kind of the dreamer.
Okay.
And then I become the doer because my co-person, Roseanne, says, wait a minute, Marianne, this is way out there. We got to bring it in. Right. And let's try this way. So she's my bring me back down to what we can do kind of thing. The doer. And,
reality check person, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Jen is very much the doer, and she's our gift in computers, Google Forms, Google Surveys, computer.
Right. Good. So what you need to do is expand to that. And I would say, when you expand to like 5 people, total, including you and Jen, right? Like start with start small. And probably the first couple things that you need to all do is define what youth ministry looks like to you all in the parish. And I think, I can't remember if I did this exercise with you all at the workshop, but it's an exercise we do with our coaching clients and our cohorts where, like, let's say, 4 years from now, you invite me up and to St. Thomas, and we're going to go to the high school graduation where several of your teens are graduating high school that grew up in your ministry, right? And you're really excited. You're like, Chris, I can't wait for you to see Tommy and Josie and Sarah and Phil, because they're on fire for Christ, and I know that wherever they're going, that they're just gonna expand the kingdom. And I was like, oh, that's great. Tell me about their faith journey, and tell me about the way that St. Thomas played a role in their faith formation. And you go forth and you say, well, Chris, they were involved in this and they did that, and they were able to grow in this area and that area. And what you're doing is you're not just describing experiences, but you're also describing the habits of that disciple that has now formed. And so what you're doing through this narrative is you're developing the habits of a disciple that you want to commission from St. Thomas, from your parish. And then the next question I ask is, okay, what are the things, the events, the opportunities, the systems that you put in place that develop that? Now, it's sometimes a difficult question to answer because a lot of it's relational. Free will is a huge factor in that, right? Like, despite our efforts, the Holy Spirit will always be at work in that young person's lives. But we can get in the way, but we can also help till the soil. And so it's about looking at our ministries and saying, like, okay, when we think about a disciple of Jesus Christ, when we think about the young men and women we're commissioning into the world, what qualities, what characteristics, how do we know that we're being productive in that? Because a lot of times when we look at productivity, we look at just the numbers. And numbers are helpful, but what's the quality of that productivity? And not to look at young people or disciples as products, but how do we know we're being productive, not successful, but productive with nurturing, accompanying, and cultivating and commissioning young disciples? So I'll stop there. Like, any kind of questions or thoughts on that? Like, does that make sense? Anything not make sense?
Yeah, so I think that's why we're concerned that we are not being not providing what families and young people need, because we don't have that production. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have the seniors at graduation. We have just a handful of people coming to the graduation now, for a blessing from, 50 candidates at confirmation to,
right.
10. So this year we're going to have blessings at all the masses, the graduation weekend, Bethlehem's graduation weekend. So as opposed to just, one. So that's why we're trying to figure out, we did a survey for these confirmation kids. And that's why we are having this training session, because, they said that they would want more information on this, and this. And most of them said that what they, and besides service, is just a time just to hang out, not to, I think maybe everyone is so busy, that they're just looking for a time just to hang out with the most popular.
They want a social time outside of their other.
Yeah, just to hang out.
Yeah. And I know you've been having a lot of gatherings like that. I mean, that seems to be, is that working out? I mean,
yeah, the agape latte, is, like I said, is, working out. And we do have a sprinkling of, juniors or seniors. So that's why now, Sarah Bernasconi, who was like our person, she felt like to try to keep it as as something that you just do because you want to do, and not for a hope hour. But this last year, we actually made it kind of like a requirement for confirmation so that you have the experience, so you know what you're missing if you don't go. So we got more, more juniors and seniors, who came.
So, and it sounds like you've got the gatherings, right? You're connecting with kids. The question is, okay, what more, right? Like, so I think what's key is, and it sounds like your church is doing this, and a lot of parishes start this way, is we try to create a sense of belonging, right? Whether it's hanging out, whether it's doing traditional faith formation or doing something completely social, we're trying to create a gathering space. The big question is, okay, I'm here, what's next, right? What's more with that? And so, the next question that I would have, like, or the next task that I would have for you in building this advisory team, along the lines of defining what youth ministry is maybe to find a model there and study it. Now, we have to be careful with that because there's a lot of bad models out there, models that might seem attractive and successful, at first, but really, they're hard to judge because they have resources we don't have, or it's not sustainable. We're catching them in a moment in time, things like that, right? So a couple of resources that I think are really good is, and one of the things that, especially if you're bringing this group together, you can say, all right, we're going to come together, we're going to define youth ministry. But before we do that, let's read a book together. And one of those books is Growing Young, by Kara Powell, Jake Mulder, and Brad Griffith. And David, are you guys familiar with that book?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So
what's
Growing
the
Young.
title? What's the title again?
Growing Young.
Growing
See if I can
Young.
get the link for that too. And it's called Growing Young: 6 Essential Strategies to reaching the young church. Skip the and so what the book talks
Put that in
about.
the chat, Chris. Would you put that?
Yeah, I'm getting the link and I'll put it in the chat for sure.
And I'll pull it up there.
The short link.
All these things. We hear all these books.
And there's videos of Kara Powell, the main author, presenting on this and everything like that. And here we go. And so basically what the book talks about is these 6 essential strategies to help young people discover and love your church. And it talks more than just about youth group or youth ministry. It talks about some of the things that you were discussing about the liturgical training, how to get students involved and everything like that. And so what I like about this book is you as a group can study it, read it together, and have concrete conversations. And there's prompts at the end of the chapters where you can be like, oh, okay, maybe this is how we apply this in our parish. And it gives you a little bit of a strategy to do on your own. And that's like a good tool if, resources are tight. How much does it cost to buy a book? Resources are tight, but this is something where you can kind of, as a team, self-lead each other. And you're then not just reading the book on your own, or you and Jen aren't just doing it on your own. You're inviting other people and you're saying to them, your input matters. And this is something that we see as a really good, valuable resource there. Another book, it's a classic. It still has some relevancy, I think, is Purpose-Driven Youth Ministry. Have you ever heard of that or read that? David, have you guys?
Here, going to all these workshops you hear about, they talk about, but if I read every book,
All right.
I would just sitting around.
I'm just going to assume you've read nothing, David. All right, so no, I'm kidding.
You hear parts of it. It's like I said, if I could read every book, I'd be doing what you're doing probably if I could.
Yeah, because that's all I do is I regurgitate.
I know you got no time, right, for that.
Yeah. Thank God for Audible, but yeah. So
that's right. You could do.
Purpose-Driven Youth Ministry was written by Doug Fields back in the early 2000s. They had a revamp of it in 2013. And it talks about these concentric circles, like how we look at our mission field, right? Like you got community, congregation, committed, core, and so forth. And again, it's another way of doing ministry. It talks a little bit again, this one is more based off of a Protestant model, but I used this a
I was
lot
gonna say
when I
Doug
was
was a
starting.
non-Catholic, but he's.
Yeah, Doug is not Catholic.
He's ministry.
The previous book, Growing Young, is ecumenical. That was written by Fuller Youth Institute, but like Bob McCarty used to be in charge of the National Federation of Catholic Youth Ministry. He was a contributor, things like that. So, can vouch for that for sure. If there are copies of it,
I'll look.
well,
I probably have it on my shelf. I know.
a little self-promotion. If there is a copy of it, read my book, Rebuilding Youth Ministry. If you can't find it because they stopped publishing it, which is a little humbling to say and everything like that. But if you can't find it, let me know. I do have a couple of copies left. Actually, there's one copy left on Amazon. So if you act fast now, you can get it. But if you don't,
Your book or that other one?
my book.
So with regards to your book and the advisory board, would you go with your book or Growing Young? Would you go with?
That's a great question. I would go with Growing Young, because my book, as much as I love it and everything like that, it's a moment in time. That's an example of a moment in time where my ministry at Nativity is a very successful ministry, but I worked in a very affluent suburban parish that had a lot of resources. So money was rarely the issue. If you go, a lot of it was communicating change and things along those lines, right? Growing Young, what I like about it is they interview a variety of different denominations, a variety of different landscapes. They talk to volunteers, they talk to paid professionals, all those sort of different things. And so, and that would be my key advice. For you, it's really important to look at things that have enough transferable principles that you can like implement to what you do. Okay. Now, if reading's not your thing, or the groups thing, there is also, and I think I talked about this group last time, 10 by 10. And 10 by 10 now has a free online course that you as a group can go through. Here's their link. Let me share the screen and get that page up.
That's what I remember sharing.
All right, you guys can see that?
Yes.
So you go to 10 by 10, and for youth leaders, basically, you can get personalized resources through a 10 by 10 quiz. But then they have this thing called the Relational Discipleship Inventory, and then the Relationship Discipleship Kickstarter. So in just 30 minutes a week, reorient your ministry through that. So to launch the Kickstarter, basically, it's like a 10-week online training course, which they talk about these 10 things right here, again, it's some of the same people from Growing Young were a part of this. National Federation of Catholic Youth Ministry was a part of this. Marathon's a strategic partner. EQ Saints is a strategic partner. A lot of these different Catholic organizations are strategic partners with 10 by 10. And this is completely free. I don't get any kind of revenue or anything like that, even though I'm a partner with this. And this is like a self-led kind of 10-week course that you could do as a group. And so, like, bottom line, what I'm trying to say by throwing all these resources at you is one of the best things you can do as an advisory team is learn together. Before you do anything together, spend time learning together. Pray together and learn together. And the more you get used to praying together and learning together, then you'll start to figure out how to do things together. And I know that sounds so simple. It takes time, but like what you'll find is that the group of people that you have together gets really strong, and then it gets easier to invite other people into that. And next thing you know, this advisory group does become an advisory / core team in the way that you originally needed that core team. And the reason it's stronger is because then you're all on the same page because you all learned together.
Yep. Right.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense, and it just kind of reinforces what we heard from Denise Utter too. With regards to you know, praying and, you
Learning.
know, learning, forming together, and how productive, you know, meetings can become and gatherings can become, because like you said, you're all kind of coming from the same, um, same, you know, wonderful plateau. So, of learning, having gone through it. So, yeah, no, but thank you for this resource. That
Yeah,
I'll
sometimes
pass that
everyone's.
on at our next faith formation gathering, and that would be great. So thank you.
Yeah, and you can make it your like summer book club sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what I
like,
was thinking. It's something that, you know, right now everyone's scattered, finishing up sacraments, getting
Yeah.
that registration form out, you know. But it would be something that, you know, you could definitely do, you know, over the summer. And
Maybe once